because you have no idea who's in charge of what, who's going to make the hiring decisions, who's going to be interested in your work. So you have to put it in front of as many people as possible at that company in hopes of getting the right person's attention. And people are always nervous about this, and I always give this as an example. I really wanted to work with Etsy, and I didn't know who at Etsy I would talk to. So I emailed like 10 people at Etsy, and then this girl emailed me and she said, a bunch of my coworkers told me that you were trying to get a hold of me. And I was so embarrassed, like, she probably got like 5 emails that I sent to different people in Etsy, and I look like a crazy person. But we ended up having a phone call, and then I was invited to speak at their conference, and we had an event afterwards, and it was just it was an amazing opportunity, and it came about because I was out there in front of everyone, and they couldn't miss me. So that is a great way just to get out, like get it in front of everyone at that company, and also to figure out who at that company is going to be in charge of making the hiring decisions. So now you're going to have a list of maybe it's like 30 companies, and you have 10 people at each company, so it's like 300 people that you will have to pitch at the end of that. So you don't have to make that list all at once. Typically what I will do is like I'll make a running list of companies, and then I'll spend a couple of hours a week trying to find contacts at those companies. And usually I can get like 100 in a week because I've been doing it so long. But even if you could get 50 in a week, and find 50 contacts and send your pitch to them, then 50 a week is 200 people that you've put your artwork in front of in a month. So, you really have to be out there in front of a lot of people in order to get in front of the right ones. I know I've said that a lot. It's important. And then the next step is figuring out their email address, so how to contact them. So what I do then is first I start with Google search, and I will go, so if I was looking for anthropology, I might Google email at anthropology.com, and I'll search that, and then so then you have to kind of look through all the search results and see what they are. But a lot of times, if somebody who works at Anthropology has posted online somewhere, they might have included their email address. If they posted a press release and the media contact might be on there, there might be an email address there. Basically, you're looking for anyone's email address from Anthropology. And the reason is that each company has a certain format that they use for their email. So if their email is, if my email was cassie.boorn@modernthrive.com, then everyone who works for me would probably have that same format. If it was cboorn@modernthrive.com, everyone who works with me would have that format. And that is pretty typical with most companies. There are exceptions, but with most companies, that is usually true. And so you can search there, then I'll search the name of the company and media release and go through that and find who the contact on that media release is, and that is a great place to find how they format their email addresses. And honestly, if you search a few different things and kind of get creative, usually you can hunt it down. And if you can't hunt it down, then you can guess, because it's usually one of three things. It would be, I'm typing it here for you. It's usually one of those three is the formats. So you can take their name, write all three formats, and send it to all three, and probably one of them is going to work for you. Okay, does anyone have any questions about that so far? I saw someone typing, so I want to give you a chance to ask if you do, if there's any confusion. Okay. Let me know. Feel free to type in there if you have some questions. So then you're going to have the list of the companies, the names of the people that you want to pitch, and their direct email addresses. And from our exercise yesterday, you're going to have an email pitch ready to send to them. So then all you have to do is take your pitch and create a separate email. And usually I'll customize it by saying hi with their first name. I'll usually add their company name in there. And then I usually do all of the subject lines the same. It will either be working together or partnership opportunity. Those are like the two I go for. Sometimes I'll do like quick question, but something that's kind of vague and like they have to open it to know what it is more likely to get them to open your email. So you have your email, you have your list. So then it becomes a process of sitting down once a week or sitting down every day or whatever it is and sending out some emails. So if it's 3 a day is all you can handle, do 3 a day. If you would rather do, 70 emails in an hour or in 3 hours, then sit down and just go through them. Find the method that works well for you, but finding the contacts and finding the companies and then sending those email pitches regularly will open so many opportunities for you. And not everybody is going to respond. So some people may not respond at all. And typically, if somebody doesn't respond to my first pitch, I'll wait 3 or 4 days and I'll follow up with them. And just say, hey, I wanted to check in and see if you had a chance to look at this. I would love to find a way to work together, so don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions at all, just kind of a little ping. And if I still don't hear back from them, then I'll usually follow up with like a month later with some kind of update. So, hey, I developed a new collection around X theme that I thought you might really like. You can check it out here and put the link in there. But each time that you follow up, what you want to do is go to the first email that you sent them and hit reply and then send your email that way, because it will show up in their inbox as like the RE. So it'll look like you were replying to an email from them, which again increases the likelihood that they'll open it. And so if you think about a sales funnel, what the sales funnel looks like is like the art director gets the email in their inbox, and all you have to do is get them to open it. And when they open the email has to be good enough to get them to click on your portfolio, and your portfolio has to be good enough to get them to respond to you. And then you have to use that, whatever connection you made and why they responded, to then turn that into a project opportunity or a client opportunity. And so when you're going through this process, you're creating a process, but it's also all based around this funnel of how you get clients. And so you are learning how to feed people into the top of the funnel. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about how to get them, once they've showed interest, once they've said that they like your work and they want to work together, how do you get them to take that next step? And what can you do to get in front of them at the right time and turn that kind of warm relationship into an opportunity? And so we're going to talk about all of that tomorrow. But I want to take some time to answer any questions that you guys have about finding companies that might be interested in you, finding contacts there, finding email addresses, and they can be specific to, if you've tried to pitch someone and you got stuck somewhere, or they can be about kind of the strategy that I laid out today. Subject line, yes. So I usually use partnership opportunity, working together, or quick question. Quick question feels a little misleading sometimes because it's not always like a quick question, but it's also more likely that they're going to open it. So which works best? Honestly, they all work relatively the same. I think that when you're pitching art directors, I would go with working together. Partnership opportunity has worked really well with like influencer outreach for me in the past. So yeah, I would use working together. Okay, Jen, give me one company and I'll try to help you right here. Because there are always loopholes, and I've learned a lot of the loopholes, but sometimes you forget until you have to do it. Colleen Rhodes. Okay, give me 1 second, guys. Um, if you want to type any other questions you have in there, that would be great. Hmm. Let's see. Found the president only. LinkedIn blocks other names, it seems. Oh, okay. So after you do so many searches, LinkedIn starts blocking um, names because they want you to upgrade to the paid version, which is really annoying. Um, but it's allowing me to see right now. Let's see. So, okay. So what I learned from just digging in there quickly is that Colleen Rugs is a very small business. So they have about 47 employees, it says on LinkedIn. So it's not huge. And that probably means that the people at the top make a lot of decisions. Like there's a small group of people at the top who make a lot of decisions, and then a lot of people kind of executing the work. So if I were you, I would email the president of the company, and I would pitch yourself, and at the end say, would you direct me to the person at your company who works closely with artists, who works with artists? Because the president of the company opens every single email and they'll read it, and then they'll forward it to the right person. So that's what I would do. And also because I think probably the president of the company has a lot of say in the designs. And it also, I saw on their about page that um, they're an international manufacturer of rugs, and they have 3,500 artisans who make the rugs. So my guess is that they don't license any work, and that their business is they sell these rugs and then have them made in, I think it's Mumbai, so they can save money on the design work. And on the creation. So most likely they're not a company that's going to license your work. They might be interested in working with you. But I would definitely reach out to the president directly. And then I couldn't find their direct email address. So I would try the president's first name at Colleen.com. And if that doesn't work, it may be that they're owned by a larger, like a bigger company, and they're just like a small subsidy of that. And so I'm going to do a little bit of looking, and I will let you know what I find, because I think, when you get stuck finding the information, a lot of times it is it's because that company doesn't work in that way, or they don't have that person there. So I'm going to help you solve that one. Do unsolicited emails upset our directors? No, it's fine. They don't like hurting people's feelings, so they won't email you back and tell you that your work sucks and they aren't going to hire you or you're not a fit or anything. And that's frustrating on the artist side. But art directors are always looking for great artists and illustrators to help them with their projects. And like all of the art directors I know just collect images in different places and collect lists of illustrators they might work with someday. So they love seeing new work. Like that's their job. They're artists too. So they love seeing new work and they're not annoyed by it unless you become annoying and like, are pressuring them for an answer or really trying to sell them on something. But reaching out and putting your work in front of them will not upset them at all. Some people recommend getting in touch via LinkedIn rather than email. Any thoughts on that? I think some people check LinkedIn often and most people don't. So you could send them to a message there, and they might not see it for 3 months, and then they're definitely not going to respond. So I've done it a couple of times when I like could not find the contact information for the person I needed to get a hold of, but I don't think it ever worked when I tried it. So I just think that people don't check those messages enough for it to be really effective. Instagram that you can email. Jen, what'd you see on Instagram that you can email who? Does anyone use the LinkedIn paid version? I had it and it was amazing, but it's so expensive that I had it for like a month, I think, and then it was done. So what I would suggest is you get the paid version you make a list of companies you want to work with and you get the paid version and spend a month like building your list up and then cancel it. So it's like a one-time $80 fee instead of like every month you're paying. It might be like 49. It was between 49 and 89, I think. But it allows you to see all of the search results, and you can see everybody that works at a company and how they're connected, and it doesn't limit you. So it's much easier to find the people that you're looking for. Michelle, yes. This is something that drives me crazy with book publishers. This imprint is a division of this company, which is owned by that company. Oh, any way to simplify this? They're always buying each other out and merging. Yes, so I've learned that in every single industry, this is like, yeah, it is expensive, Denise. In every single industry, it is the same where there are like a few big companies that own almost all of the other companies, and then there are lots of like little companies that just aren't big enough to be yet. And that is just the name of the game anymore. Because the reality is the people that start a publishing company, you start it because you love publishing, but it's expensive to keep it going and running, and if you don't have investors behind you to cover the cost of bringing new authors on, if you can't do a lot of marketing, there are all of these challenges that they face. So if a big publisher comes to them and is like, hey, I'll give you millions of dollars and you don't have to work anymore and I'll take your company, they're usually okay with that. So that is hard, but once you find out like who the top company is that owns it, that's typically where their email address is connected to. And I did find that when I was doing research for the children's book illustration directory, that a lot of the like all of the popular publishers are owned by like the same two companies. And so, but you have to pitch all of them because none of them talk to each other. So I emailed or I interviewed an art director at I think Penguin Random House, and she just like worked on like one line of books within the whole division, and that was like her job was creating that line of books. And so because there are so many people working at those companies, everyone has kind of like one thing that they're in charge of, and it just makes it much harder to figure out who's who. Oh, when you see a company on Instagram, there's an email button. It usually goes to their general contact or customer service. You can absolutely send them an email there and they'll read it and then forward it on to the person. I find like it's a little more effective if you're able to find the person's email directly, but they always respond when you pitch customer service at email addresses. And I've done that for even, did some like conference sponsorship sales, and I would if I couldn't find an email address, I would send it to the customer service, and they would respond and say, thanks, we've forwarded this on to the appropriate parties, and they're going to get in touch if they're interested. So it's not the best way or the most direct, but it definitely works. It definitely helps. My mom-in-law is trying to get a publisher for a children's book right now, and she has been told that she has to work with an agent, otherwise the publisher is not even going to look at it all anymore. Oh, okay, this is great. I forgot you wanted to talk about agents. So, okay, I'm going to talk about agents in general, and then I'm going to talk about the problem you're facing, Denise. So agents in general, if you're an artist and you don't just selling your work, an agent will sell your work for you and handle the contracts and finding clients and finding projects and finding assignments, and you can focus on creating the artwork and doing the part of it you love. And then you split the revenue, or you split whatever money you make, I think in half usually, like they make 50%, you make 50%. Sometimes it's a little bit different. The problem is that there are significantly fewer art directors than there are, or art agents than there are artists, and they get pitched all the time, and they only are going to bring artists on board that they think can help them make more money and can help them grow their business. So if you have a portfolio but you've never had a freelance client, or you have, like, your work hasn't been out there that long, you haven't been out it that long, it's really hard to convince an agent to hire you unless you've had some level of success that shows them that you have built this business and you've done this successfully, and that they can help you take that even further. And so that is when you should approach an agent. And then most of them have submission pages on their site, but you should just put together a really great pitch, kind of telling the story of your work and what you've accomplished and why you want to work with an agent, and then go out and approach all of them. There's certain, it's hard. So you have to, so I put a bunch of them in the art licensing directory that we have on Modern Thrive. So there are some there. And the way that I found a lot of them is two things. One, looking at stores that carry things that use surface pattern design. So material, curtains, pillows, that kind of thing. So I looked at like Michael's, I looked at different craft stores, and then I went to their fabric section and looked at what brands they had listed there and just wrote all of those down. And the other thing you could do is do a list of curtain manufacturers or curtain manufacturers in the USA, and then start making a list of all the curtain places, and then think of like bedding manufacturers or bedding companies, and then make a list of all those companies. So you can't do specific for like surface pattern design because nobody talks about their product in that way, but you have to search for the products that would use your surface pattern design. Okay, now Denise, the problem your mother-in-law is facing is that of all the types of books that get pitched to publishers, there are more children's books pitched than anything else. Like people are really interested in children's illustration and children's books, and they all have lots of ideas. And so they receive tons and tons of submissions, and it's really hard for them to go through and respond to all of them. So the way to get your foot in the door is typically through an agent. Now, some artists, if you're an artist and you're working as like a freelancer, so a publisher is hiring you to illustrate their book, you would need an art agent. If you are a writer and an illustrator and you've created this concept and you've written a children's book that you want to publish, you actually probably need a publishing agent. And this is somebody who has connections to the editors at the publishers and who have a history with them and a great track record, and are willing to go and say, hey, I have this new opportunity for you. And the reason you need an agent is because it's like a person working in this company, and they have a stack of 300 book ideas that people have submitted that may or may not be great books. You don't know, because individuals aren't great judges of their own work. Or you can listen to what this agent who has come up with 100 brilliant book ideas is willing to sell you. So the agent just gives you a lot of credibility, and like they've already built trust with those editors. So it's easier to get in. So when you're looking for an agent, what I would do is find other children's book writers who are in her same niche and see who represents them. So if you go to their contact page, like really big name authors, always on their contact page. Oh, she has found an agent, researched the agents that she wants to approach. And what they say? She heard back? Okay, so yeah, so you just have to keep going out and pitching and then following up because it's again such a competitive industry that it's such a competitive industry that you have to really be out there all the time. So I think she should go out to even more agents. I think she should also look for children's book writers and illustrators who have a similar style to her and just ask for advice or have them look at her portfolio or look at her pitch and give her some feedback because it really is just a process. And the best thing she can do is put that book proposal in front of 25 agents and gather all the feedback because they're going to tell her what they like and what they don't like. Gather all of the feedback that they have and go back, make changes to it and go back to them because most likely it's not in like a perfect state right now, which is fine. But she can learn how it needs to be done through that. And then for the directories, here's a link. If you go to the bottom of that page, there are 3 directories. So we have the children's book illustration, directory of art licensing, and then editorial illustration. And I think they're on sale for $22. Yeah, they're $22 each. So yeah, you can check those out there. But yeah, I think that's good. And it's hot. It's going to take her time and it's going to be really hard. But once she gets her first book deal, the others will be a lot easier to find. And there's someone who has a great blog, children's book writers. Oh yeah, Tara Lazar. She is she has a lot of information on her website about writing children's books. Oops. And there's that. Oh yes, and so definitely, if she wants you to illustrate and she's writing, then she needs to get an agent to represent her, and then they'll need an illustrator, and she'll recommend you. So that's perfect. Oh, that's awesome. Um, so yeah, just keep going out there and trying to make connections. Yeah, no problem. All right, guys. So, does anyone else have any other? Oh, wait, I see I missed questions here. Not accepted commissions. Is it necessary to have a newsletter or blog? Not necessary, but helpful. So, every different marketing channel is like a tool in your toolbox, and you don't need to use all of your tools, but the more tools you have, the more useful it can be. And so, building a newsletter list gives you a group of people that you can communicate with on a regular basis. So having that connection to them is really great. And then I would not suggest a blog. Just unless you decide that you really love to write and you really love the idea of blogging and you would want to spend a lot of time there, then don't do it. Just do a newsletter. Because blogging can be a powerful platform, but most of the time I just see people like creating a blog because they feel like they have to, and then the content isn't that interesting, so no one reads it, so it's just a waste of time. But a newsletter can be really great. Also, is it a no-no to call yourself a novice? Like saying you're a novice artist? What do you Can you expand a little bit? Or give me the, like in a sentence. What's your blog topic, Denise? Oh, yeah. No, I would say an up and coming artist. So it means the same thing, but it means that you're new, basically. But you're saying like I knew and I don't know what I know when you say novice. But when you say up and coming, you say like I'm new, but I'm going places. So that's a just a better spin. And blog definitely, so a blog definitely does drive traffic to your site, but it doesn't always drive sales or clients. Yeah. So if you, and I think if you sell products or if you sell your artwork directly or that kind of thing, like it can drive traffic. You can kind of build a community around the work that you do, and it's a great marketing tool, but it's probably not going to get you like freelance projects. I mean, it's just maybe in a passive way you'll get one someday. But it is great if you're selling products or have like new projects launching and that kind of thing and want to keep people up to date. But yes, don't do it just to do it. If you don't enjoy like writing and taking pictures and that kind of thing, then it just won't be interesting. You have to enjoy doing it in order to make it interesting. I don't see any more questions. If you have any more questions, type them there, but I'll use this to tell you about the time that I thought that I could just blog about anything. And I pitched this big fashion blog for like women in corporate America to do a guest post, and they accepted it. And I'm not fashionable at all. Like I want to be comfortable. And the whole post was about like the most comfortable pieces you can wear to work on a budget. And like people in the comments were just like, this is ridiculous. Like it was so clear that I should not be there talking about giving fashion advice, that it was just clear to everyone. So if there's something you're not totally passionate about or totally interested in, it's really hard to fake it. I've gotten freelance work from. Yeah, I actually got my first like job from Twitter. And it was at a PR agency in New York, and I met the president of the agency on Twitter, and we became friends, and then that led to a job. So even connecting with art directors and businesses on Instagram or on Twitter and kind of engaging with them is a great way to get your foot in the door and get them looking at your work. Can you talk about agent commitments? Do they want half your time, all your time, now and then? Usually, it depends on each agent, but typically what they would want is, um, so typically what they'll want is exclusivity over certain markets. So I know some artists have an agent that represent that all of their work, anything they do goes through that agent. Some people have agents that only represent a portion of their work. So they might have an agent who does all of their editorial work, but if they want to get into publishing, that's free for them. They don't have to talk to their agent about that. And then the agent will ask you to create a certain number of new pieces of artwork that they can market per week or per month. So I've heard the number like 3 to 5 new pieces per week, but that isn't all agents. So you have to really talk to the agent about your goal and understand their goals and figure out, how much art you can produce on a regular basis. But it's not about your time, the amount of time you have. It's more about how many, because every piece of artwork is a product basically that they can sell for you. It's like how many products can you roll out each week? How did I get that? Oh, the job on Twitter. I well, it was kind of in the early days of Twitter when everyone was there and kind of connecting with people. But I was working with a lot of I was in college and I was working with bloggers on doing like sponsorships and ad programs. So I started researching all of the people who worked in the PR world who were working with influencers. And there was this lady who had a blog, and she wrote about her perspective on working with influencers and how, she sees the blogging community going and yada, yada, yada. And I found her on Twitter and I started following her because I wanted to DM her and ask if I could be her intern, but she didn't follow me back. So then I started like engaging with her once a day. So like I'd retweet something she tweeted, or I'd tweet at her, or like just like not annoying, but just like, oh, that's funny, that's great, retweeting. So then after I did that for a few days, she followed me back. And then sent her a message and I was like, here's who I am and I really want to be your intern. And she was like, no, our interns work in New York. Like, why are you bothering me? And so I just kind of left it at that. And then like a couple of months later, I was at a blogging conference and she was there and we were talking and got to know each other. And I was like, oh, I'm the one that emailed you or to message you through Twitter. And she remembered me. And then I got an internship there. And then that eventually led to my first job, which I was working from home and it was a salary position. And I was like 20 years old. And it was an amazing opportunity. And I got it because I live in the Midwest in a very small town. So I was able to connect with someone who was like running an agency in New York through Twitter, and build enough credit and credibility with them that she was willing to take a bet on me. And so that has been a lot of like how my career has evolved, is just with connecting with people and finding those opportunities, and finding how you can be helpful to others and, how you can help them and how they can help you, sort of thing. Awesome, no problem. So in tonight's homework, what you guys are going to get is a sheet an Excel sheet template to help you create your list of companies and your names and the titles and the email addresses there. And then you're going to get a list with some tips on finding email addresses and like some quick tips so you can keep that on hand. And so that will help you start creating your own list and start building your list of contacts. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about how to turn those kind of warm introductions into opportunities for your illustration business, and how to close those deals. So feel free to email me if you have any questions. I'll be sending that out later tonight along with the video. And then we'll all be here tomorrow at the same time. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.